there, I'm Rex King, and welcome back to Monday Night Movie. Today, we look at Sisters. Sisters was directed by James Moore and was released on December 18th, 2015. It made $105 million at the box office on a budget of $33 million, which is a surprise because it came out the same weekend as Star Wars The Force Awakens. I don't know who decided to see this over Star Wars, but that was an interesting decision, to say the least. Anyway, the film did okay critically. Most of the critics were split. Some critics thought Tina Fey and Amy Poehler did such a great job holding up the movie, while the other critics thought that a lot of the gags fell flat. Where do I side on this argument? Well, let's talk about it. Sisters is the story of the Ellis sisters. Maura, played by Amy Poehler, who's the responsible one who always tries to help out other people, even when that help isn't wanted or warranted. Then you have Kate, played by Tina Fey, who is the irresponsible one. She has trouble holding down a job, she doesn't really have a place to live, and her own daughter thinks that she's a deadbeat. One day, these two sisters get a call from their parents, played by Josh Brolin and Diane Wiest respectively, to come to their childhood home and clean out their rooms because they are selling the house. Once they get there, they reminisce about the old days and Maura realizes that she never got a chance to cut loose. So Kate convinces her that they should throw a party in their childhood home for one last hurrah before the house is sold. Maura agrees on the condition that Kate agrees to be the responsible one for the night so she can fully cut loose. The rest of the story is your generic party film. What I mean by that is, first part of the film follows them setting up the party. Then we have the start of the party, which as usual always starts off kind of okay, and then it picks up, still on an okay note, but then it starts to spiral out of control and all chaos happens, and inevitably the house gets completely and utterly destroyed. At the end of the film, people come out of the other side of this party as changed human beings and changed perspectives. At least that's the general idea. So, if this is the way the party genre is done, can a film really do a successful story with this? Well, though the concept is generic, you can make a film like this successful as long as your comedy works. This film, however, the comedy is 50-50 for me. I like some of the gags, and I got a couple good chuckles. I never went on full belly laugh, which is a shame for a comedy like this, and some of the gags just felt like they went on too long and overstayed their welcome. Now, I do recognize that that could just be because the comedy was not meant for me. It could have been for a different audience, because I've never really enjoyed the party comedy genre. And there isn't anything incredibly new here. That being said, I can see some people liking this, like I said earlier. But since these scores are based off my opinions, I am going to have to give the story score a 5 out of 10. The characters do not help this film any. They did not write good characters. Most of the characters are one note and only have singular traits to define them. This is with the exception of the parents, who I felt like were the most developed characters and had the most interesting things about them. They actually felt like real people. However, they're not in the film long enough. And that's a shame because I also felt like they got some of the funniest lines and funniest scenes. So I'm going to have to give the character score a 3 out of 10. That's not to say that the performances are bad, because honestly, the performances in this movie are really good. Every performer is doing their best to make their character their own. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler have such wonderful chemistry, and they bounce off each other really well. Everyone else in the background is also trying their best to make their characters stand out, despite the fact that their characters aren't written incredibly well. This has to do with the fact that probably this is an improv comedy for the most part. You can tell by just watching the film that most of the lines were improv'd, and you can tell that certain actors are trying to change their characters to be more three-dimensional or to fit them as people, and that works really well for the film at times. And I really enjoyed seeing these actors kind of go from scratch, because again, their characters aren't written incredibly well. So I'm going to give performance a 9 out of 10. All the performers do a really good job, and if their characters were just written a little bit better, this film probably would have been a knockout. Then you have the visuals, and the visuals here are okay for the most part. There's enough going on in the backgrounds that you're going to miss on first viewing that makes you want to come back to have multiple views, and they captured the chaos of the party really well, from when it's just your simple cocktail party to a full-blown block party. It quickly shows how things can spiral out of control. I really enjoy that about this film. Its visuals are what helps elevate the movie. However, there were a few scenes where I felt the camera was too much focusing on two characters who I wasn't that interested in. I think that has to do more with the staging of the way the film wanted to be staged, and that there's so much going on. But there's also a sinkhole at the end of the film. The pool creates a sinkhole which causes most of the destruction, but it doesn't look like a real sinkhole, so it took me out of the film. All those feel like nitpicks, but I do have to add those to the way it affects my score. So I'm going to give the visual style a 7 out of 10. Then you have the music, and the music is fine for the most part. Most of the tracks are your standard techno beats with a mixture of real songs scattered throughout the movie. This is fine, especially for a party comedy. This is what I come to expect, but there's just nothing new here, and it feels kind of generic. So overall, the score doesn't do much for me, and I won't say go seek it out. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. My final verdict on this film is an average of 6 out of 10. This movie is okay. I didn't like it as much as I think other people will. The comedy didn't hit me hard, and the characters were a little lackluster. However, I do recognize that the performers are doing an amazing job, and the visuals are pretty good for the most part. So I do think this film is worth the watch, especially if you are into party comedies. For me, party comedies are a mixed bag, and most of the time I stay away from them when I can. So this movie is not going to be a rewatch for me. Anyway, that's what I thought about Sisters. What do you think about it if you've seen it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And next time, we'll be talking about City Island. See you then!